In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about how to identify and color coordinate the parts of an argumentative essay. So an argumentative essay is composed of three parts. You've got your introductory paragraph, your body paragraphs, and your conclusion. So we're going to be identifying the introductory paragraph, a body paragraph, and a body paragraph containing a counterclaim. So for this essay, we're looking at the question, should students be required to take PE class? So let's look at the introduction. It says, why is exercise often the first part of a daily schedule to be cut? Daily exercise is a basic requirement for human health. People were made to move, particularly in their youth. Thus, a daily physical education class should be required in all schools. So the first thing we want to identify is our hook. Remember, there are 5 different hooks that you would want to use in an argumentative essay. In this case, we're using a question as our hook, so I would highlight the first sentence as our hook. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight this purple. The next part that I want to highlight is the summary. The summary is basically giving a little bit of what the argument is going to be about, some little background information, some history, so that the reader can understand what you're going to be writing about. An easy way to identify the summary is to know that it starts right after the hook and it ends right before the claim. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight everything that's after the hook and before the claim, and I'm going to highlight that pink. And then, of course, our claim, I have already put it in bold for you, which is thus a daily physical education class should be required in all schools. So since it's already bolded, we don't need to highlight it. Now let's go to the body paragraph. The body paragraph has 4 parts. It has the premise, the intro to the evidence, and the justification. So let's look at this body paragraph. It says, to begin with, PE class should be required because most students do not get enough regular exercise. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention conducted research on the activity levels of children and teens. Their findings indicate that less than 25% of middle schoolers get the suggested 1 hour of activity per day. The small percentage of children who get adequate exercise each day is alarming. A required PE class can help to solve this issue by mandating physical activity for all students and ideally improving their health. So let's go ahead and let's first look for our premise, which is the reason. So this is the first sentence. To begin with, PE class should be required because most students do not get enough regular exercise. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it this blue color. Next, we're going to be looking for the introduction to the evidence. So basically, anything that's leading up to the evidence is going to be our intro to the evidence. So the Center for Disease Control and Prevention conducted research on the activity levels of children and teens. Their findings indicate. So this right here is all of the introduction to the evidence. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that green. And then, of course, less than 25% of middle schoolers get the suggested hour of activity per day. This right here is our evidence. So I'm going to highlight that yellow. And then the small percentage of children who get adequate exercise each day is alarming. A required PE class can help to solve this issue by mandating physical activity for all students and ideally improving their health. So right here, this is our justification. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. Now I don't have orange, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll just highlight it in gray. Now we have our big chunky paragraph, which right here, this paragraph is the counterclaim paragraph. It's basically having 2 body paragraphs in one. So, however, there are others who believe that PE should not be required because many students participate in sports outside of school. Based on government data, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention recommends children get approximately an hour of daily exercise. According to their website, children and adolescents ages 6 through 17 years should do 60 minutes or more of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity each day. Some feel that if students are on sports teams outside of school that hold daily practices and games, typically lasting at least 1 hour, those students should be required to take PE. However, the only way to guarantee that all students receive adequate exercise is by mandating a daily physical education class in school. Mandated physical education courses guarantee that students are receiving around an hour of daily exercise, which will lower childhood obesity rates. As seen in the past few decades, childhood obesity rates are growing out of control and need to be dealt with. According to the Center for Disease Control, obesity affects 13.7 million children in the United States. Requiring students to actively participate in physical education will help to lower those numbers. It will teach students how to properly exercise and remain a healthy weight in a structured environment. So let's first look for our counterclaim. So the counterclaim is this first sentence here. However, And we're going to highlight that red. However, there are others who believe that PE should not be required because many students participate in sports outside of school. So that basically acts as a premise, but it is the opposing premise. So now that I have that, I need to look for the introduction to the evidence for the counterclaim. So based on government data, all the way to according to their website, this is our introduction to the evidence, which we put as green. And then we have our evidence, which is all in quotations, all the way to the citation, which we're going to put in yellow. And then, of course, we have our justification. Now, of course, our justification here, I don't have orange, so we're going to go ahead and just use gray. And now we need to refute this, so we refute it with a premise. So this right here is actually my premise. So, however, the only way to guarantee that all students receive adequate exercise is by mandating a daily physical education class in school. This is my premise. Remember, what comes after the premise is the introduction to the evidence. So mandated physical education courses guarantee that students are receiving around an hour of daily exercise, which will lower childhood obesity rates. As seen in the past few decades, childhood obesity rates are growing out of control and need to be dealt with according to the Centers for Disease Control. So this one actually has quite a long introduction to the actually, this right here is part of my premise as well, excuse me. This all the way to the childhood obesity rates. And then as seen in the past few decades until the Center of Disease Control is my introduction to the evidence. And then, of course, this statistic right here is my evidence. And then, of course, the rest of the paragraph is my justification, which, since I don't have orange, I will highlight in gray. Okay, so this is what you're supposed to be doing. On the next page, you were supposed to write a conclusion. So remember your conclusion, you are restating your claim. So in this case, since my claim is daily physical education classes should be required in all schools, I need to restate that, meaning I need to reword it. So I could say all students should be required to take a physical education class during the school day. So that's me restating it. And then you would summarize your evidence. So the evidence that I have here is all going to be in yellow. So I can say, let's see, less than 25% of middle schoolers get the suggested 1 hour of activity per day. And also, I had said that obesity affects 13.7 million children. So I could say students are not getting enough activity throughout the day, and therefore obesity rates are on the rise. This is why, and then, I would go on to say this is why students need to be in physical education courses. And then finally, you would end with a mic drop. So for the mic drop, you need to look at the mic drop poster. It gives you a bunch of sentence starters, and those sentence starters will help you create a mic drop sentence that you can use at the end of your essay. Hopefully now you can identify all the different parts of an argumentative essay. Again, if you have any questions, you can always email me, but hopefully now you understand it just a little